Hey guys, welcome back to more AFK Arena. Leonardo da Vinci is in the game. I had to laugh when I was looking through the comments. Everyone was on top of it in the last video. Had a good laugh. So this guy, I've done a little bit of testing with him in the Arena of Trials in the one test battle that we do get. And his damage seems really nowhere. He is a mage, but he does focus more on control. So I think we're going to have to test him with more formed teams. You're very limited on the options that we can test with in the one battle that we have, so we will do more testing. He has got some really nice CC, but his damage feels very lackluster. So that's just my first impression, but let's get into it because his abilities and stuff look wicked. So first of all, his ultimate, Work of Art. Leonardo creates a work of art on his canvas and deals 250% damage to all enemies that were splashed with paint, locking them in portrait frame. The portrait frame actually looks really cool, paralyzing them for 8 seconds. This ability can only be triggered when there are enemies currently splashed with paint on the battlefield. So the paralyze is basically they're stunned. You can still deal damage from what I've been testing to them. It's just like a stun, but it's a really cool looking stun. And the paint thing comes into this ability, Art Attack. Leonardo flings paint at a random enemy, dealing 160% damage to them, covering them in paint for 12 seconds. The enemy covered in paint has their tenacity reduced by 10 points and their dodge reduced by 120 points. This ability prioritizes targets that are not currently covered in paint. We get damage increases, but it also, on skill ups, hits two targets. So, and from testing this ability, he will actually use it a second time within the 12 seconds, so you can end up with 4 enemies painted. Now, I really thought there was going to be something in his signature item or his furniture that was going to paint more enemies, but it doesn't. But you can get up to 4 enemies painted to go ahead and get them stunned for 8 seconds with this, which is pretty decent. Next up, we have Leonardo creates a cannon, which he uses to deal 330% damage to all enemies within the cannon scope. And enemies that are struck are also stunned for 3 seconds. Not too bad. Using the ability Evacuation immediately resets the cooldown timer of this ability, which is nice. So that is going to be an engraving ability, that one. Keep in mind when we look at those abilities, that is going to be the engraving ability. This one here. Each time Leonardo receives close range damage that is more than 10% of his max health, he launches his seat into the air, carrying himself away from the nearby enemies to land in the safest area on the battlefield. This effect can be triggered once every 10 seconds. When Leonardo launches into the air, enemies within a certain radius will be dealt 220% damage and lose 40 haste points for 5 seconds. It goes up to 60 haste, and the effect can be triggered once every 8 seconds. Now, this is his 60 engrave. After using the ability Evacuation, Leonardo will receive 50% less damage for the following 5 seconds. Not a bad ability, but hey, when I was testing this, I feel like it's clunky because I tried putting him in the front row to test this, and I'm like, I can't remember. I think there's a Screg and a Cirrus in the front row in the one battle that we can do. And I think the Screg knocks him up, so he's stunned and he can't get out of it. And against the Cirrus, I don't think the Cirrus does the 10% damage. I think the back row ranged heroes do the 10% damage, which doesn't trigger it. So I don't know exactly how the trigger conditions are doing it, but I couldn't get him to proc this passive at any stage when I was trying to test him in the one battle that we do have. So I think it's more for if like there's an enemy Keltha jumping around, or they put a Cecilia on you or something like that. I think then it comes into play. Next up, we do have the signature item. Enemies are dealt more damage from Leonardo's cannon the farther away they are from it, dealing damage. Damage dealt can be increased by up to 30%, goes to 50% and 80%. And then when Leonardo triggers Evacuation, which is his passive that I can't make him trigger, as a result of receiving damage, the damage he receives shall not exceed 10% of his max health. So what that's saying is, for him to proc that Evacuation, he needs to take damage more than I think equal to or greater than 10% of his max health. And I think this means that if he gets dealt an attack that would have done 40% of his max health, it will only do 10% and then he will evacuate. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Like I said, I couldn't get it to work. It's going to take some more testing on different formations. Furniture. Leonardo recovers an additional 10 energy points per second for every enemy that is covered in paint. Now, what I'm not too sure, I don't know if when he uses his ult and puts them in the frame, whether that counts as painted or whether they're no longer painted because they're then framed. So I think they're I feel like they should consider painted because they're like a painting in a frame, but I don't know how that works yet either. Enemies that are struck by the ability work of art will receive 45% more damage for the following 8 seconds. So anyone that's put into a frame is stunned for 8 seconds and taking some beastie damage. So that pretty much covers his abilities. Let's jump in and take a look. So, like I said, pretty decent CC when you consider his ult and his other one, but it takes a little bit of time. He doesn't use his cannon very quick. Let's go to this first. We can just see here. So there's his cannon. Boom. That's his paint. Let's see if he can do another paint. I like his little basic attack. His basic attack is actually really cool. So there you go. That's the ultimate. If they're yes, and he is still painted. So when they're in the frame, they're still painted. They're still considered painted. But, you know, you get the gist. He splashes paint. And like I said, he's done that there, but he can passively see splash paint again there. So he does splash paint again within the 12 seconds that the original paint is on. So that is something to note. But I do like the cannon. It looks pretty cool. But the cannon, from what I can tell, has like Iron range from the testing that I could do. But like I said, this one's pretty average. What I want to show you is I want to put him here. See, I'm trying to test this evacuation thing. I feel like the evacuation thing should have a condition that he ignores control effects when he's triggering the evacuation, because otherwise he's going to get boned. So what we'll do is we'll put him here, for instance. We'll just throw some stuff in. I'm not even stressed about it. We'll see what happens here. But if we watch him. So Screggles, it's like, I feel like Screg keeps doing 10% of his health in damage and knocking him back, but it might not have been quite 10%. So I don't know. He didn't do his little hover up and run away thing. And that's what I was trying to test for. So if we go again, we'll put him at the top here this time. Let's just do something like boom, boom, boom. Let's go. And let's just watch him up the top there against the Cirrus. Now, I think the Cirrus doesn't do the damage. I think it's the fact that Belinda does the damage to him. There was his cannon. And I haven't been able to put it in a formation where he actually gets to use his hover up thing. And keeping in mind, like, because I'm curious on like the idea of having him front row where he just like mitigates the first bit of damage and then hovers into the back row, and then you have your tank, because a lot of in high deficits, a lot of tanks get hit too hard at the start. So if he can absorb that one attack, fly up, get away from the damage, and then your tank comes in, kind of like how Rowan does sometimes in the front row, how he immunes a hit and then the tank comes in and takes the aggro. I'm thinking something like that for him, but otherwise it'll be just put him in the back row and, you know, see what he can do. So let's jump in. We'll chuck him in the back row. I'll put an Arthur in here. Let's put Arthur there. Screw it. Let's put you. Let's put you. And let's put, let's just do this. Screw it. Let's just do that. So let's see what he does here. And that Screg mounts up quick, doesn't he? So that, like, I mean, the cannon would actually seem pretty decent there, but like, you don't have a proper deficit here. It's really hard. Does he actually put that Screg in a portrait? Wait, is Screg actually in a portrait? No. No, the animation goes on, but Screg doesn't actually go into it. But I think those portraits look absolutely savage. I think it looks wicked. But let's sort of check his damage here. He actually did some pretty good damage. I did a lot of testing before this, and I could not get him to do damage. That cannon actually seemed quite respectable. So let's do one more try. Let's do one more try. But yeah, I mean, these are really bad stages to sort of try and get a feel for it. So we'll definitely do more testing. I think the kit has merit on the CC value of it. But yeah, I'm still, jury's still out on the control side of things. So let's do something like this. Let's put Isabella and you in there. Let's just see how this goes. Okay, so he splashes paint straight up. Fortunately, he keeps putting it on Screg. There's his... I mean, that cannon actually hits the whole field. I didn't realize that before. Okay, I take back my original words. I think he could be quite good. That cannon is actually a 3-second Mahira range. I thought it was going to be Iron range, but it's Mahira range. That is really solid. That's really solid. I must have been testing like the completely wrong formations before when I was doing it, but I swear they were similar and I just couldn't get him to do damage. Like Zickers was out damaging him. But I mean, that cannon is a really good back row sniper. But once again, this is a very low deficit, so it's going to come down to how well it works further in. But I mean, in something like a Raku team, like I'm just thinking, like, you know, if you leave Raku out of like and you use a Mihira Kazard, that frees you up for him to go with a Raku and an Ezio. And I mean, he's got the synergy with Ezio, so you just put one more dimensional in there and you're pretty much set. But I mean, if you can pretty much just stun the whole enemy team like that, like he does throw his paint first and then gets the cannon out, so you just need to buy a little bit of time, and then away you go. Like, it ain't too bad. So let's just put it like, let's just do like this, for instance. So let's watch his animation. So he does the paint splash first, and then he's gonna get the cannon out. Oh, he got stunned by the totem. Bad RNG. He got stunned by the totem, unfortunately. Let's try again. Put you there. Put you there. Let's put you front row. Why not? Let's just do something like this and this. Let's see what happens. Just don't drop the totem on him. I just want to see the stun. So we do the splash. Totem dude, don't do it. And then he goes stun. And it actually, that is really quite nice for like a Raku team, because he gets that effective control faster than I think a Mihira could. But then he can follow it up by putting some enemies in a portrait once he gets that energy. So once again, these are really hard to test out. I think he's got some decent merit behind him. It's just going to come down to deficit testing. Like, I don't think he's going to deal that much damage with his cannons, but the fact that he can get that whole board CC out faster than what probably a Mihira could do. And then I think it's going to come down to testing with artifacts as well, because I think artifacts are going to be very interesting for him. Like whether you actually want to use whether you want to start with the extra energy or whether you don't, because you might be able to get, you know, do a splash, then his cannon, then a basic attack, then a splash again, then ult. Like, you want to be ulting onto 4 enemies, not 2. I feel like there's a lot of things that can be played around with this guy. But anyway, that's a bit more in-depth look at him. But let me know what you guys think. I think he's going to be fun to test. I'm definitely thinking that the Raku synergy is definitely there. But yeah, you guys let me know what you think. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.